Can I become stateless and pay zero tax? I get asked this question every once in a while, and for those of you who look at the high cost of citizenship by investment, who don't want to obtain a paper residence or spend time living somewhere else, the idea of giving up your citizenship and traveling the world as a stateless nomad, keeping all of your hard-earned money sounds pretty appealing. I'm going to share some common misconceptions from one question I got, and I'm going to share my feedback on this idea of being a stateless nomad. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, my team of 36 people, our network of global experts gleaned over the last dozen years, and yours truly help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And I'm going to be honest, I know a couple people who have become stateless by choice. But I'm going to tell you that it's not as fun and as glamorous as it may sound. I'm going to read you a question that I got asked by a gentleman right here on YouTube and give you the answer to the idea of being a stateless tax-free nomad. The question says, please correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need a citizenship in capital letters, somewhere once you renounce your U.S. citizenship. You merely need a passport of another country, so I can, number one, offshore my business to Panama or Malaysia or somewhere else. Number two, get a passport from Mexico, Russia, Bulgaria, etc. Number three, renounce my U.S. citizenship. And number four, have 2 to 3 homes I bounce from throughout the year and pay zero taxes, both personal and corporate. Am I wrong? Now, as with so many questions in this space, and I suppose in life, you're not entirely wrong. Let's go through and look at this. Number one, would you offshore your business to Panama or Malaysia? Panama, often not my first choice for many active businesses. Mainland Malaysia itself, not very tax friendly. You may be referring to Labuan, which has a flat 3% tax rate. Again, probably not my first choice for most people. Now, let's talk about the statelessness part. Okay. Can I get a passport from Mexico, Russia, Bulgaria, etc., before renouncing my U.S. citizenship and then be stateless? I think what most people don't understand is that by and large, passports are travel documents that citizens of a country are entitled to. You are a U.S. citizen, therefore you are entitled to apply for a U.S. passport. You have to submit your proof of citizenship to get your first passport. The same is true in most countries. Now, can you become stateless and get a passport? Yes. More so in theory than I think many people realize, but yes. The United Nations had a whole convention on statelessness. I think they generally weren't speaking to nomad capitalists when they talked about the stateless and the refugee populations of the world. But to this day, most stateless people do not have passports. Now, should we compare ourselves to the Badoons living in parts of the Gulf region in the Middle East? Probably not. But I think that in practice, there are only 2 or 3 dozen countries, something like 30, that are actively issuing stateless travel documents to people who live in the country. Paraguay has been mentioned as one. And so if you are living in Paraguay and you renounce, let's say, your U.S. citizenship in Paraguay, can you then go to Paraguay and say, I don't have a citizenship, please issue me a travel document? You can. It is potentially in some countries more difficult, and it is certainly more difficult to travel on because you are not Paraguayan. You are a stateless person entitled to a Paraguayan travel document or fill in the name of the country that you've decided to spend time in. In many cases, you would need to have a residence or even permanent residence in that country. In parts of Latin America, that's not that difficult to get. But what I can tell you is when you then go to step 4, travel all around the world, that is going to be difficult because I think the airlines understand what the XXX, I believe the code is, for a stateless person. Your passport's not going to say nationality USA or nationality Paraguay or nationality France. It's going to say nationality none. And people who are paying attention are going to say, I don't know what to do with this. And you know what you're going to have? What you have with so many cases of bureaucracy, where they just say, I don't know, therefore it can't be done, go away. And so you're going to have a much more difficult life. And you're going to be subject to the idea that all these countries that you might want to visit may not let stateless people in. You may have the same issue of the person at the other end. If you're going in, what is this? You're a citizen of none? I don't understand. Now, you would think that people would have a better understanding of those provisions, but you know what I've learned? People don't understand things that are different. They like things to follow a pattern in bureaucracy. And so I think you're going to have a more difficult time. There are simply many countries that won't let you in. And so the idea that you're going to get a Mexican or a Russian or a Bulgarian passport, I don't know about each of those particular countries and what their policy at issuing passports to stateless people are, but you don't just get to choose from the buffet at that point. The idea that you can get a second citizenship from any number of citizenship by investment countries, you can get paper residence, you can claim citizenship by descent. I mean, there's so many different ways to get a second citizenship. All those options are not necessarily available to you if you become stateless. And again, the idea that you're going to get the passport first, you need to become stateless and then apply for the passport. And so it's a situation where you're in limbo. I've known a couple people from Central Asia who moved to Russia and became stateless while waiting for their Russian passport. It is not a dream scenario. They were not traveling the world between their multiple homes. In fact, I think some countries might even have difficulty. If you were to buy the homes as a stateless person, they would want to register your home under a certain citizenship ID. And they may or may not accept. I mean, understanding that there's so many different jurisdictions to buy real estate, they may not all accept. What do you mean, citizenship of none? How do we log this in our system? We don't know. There's no button to push, so sorry, I don't know. Now, can you live a tax-free life as a stateless person? I would argue that the conditions are the exact same as anyone else. Right? So to me, a better plan would be to get a second citizenship. If you want to give up your current citizenship, do that. And then from there, simply live a tax-friendly lifestyle, whether it's living in a tax-free country, whether it's living in a territorial tax country and having legitimate foreign income, whether it's living under a tax exclusion or a temporary tax exemption like in Portugal or Uruguay or Chile or others, whether it's living in a country that doesn't tax your particular type of income like capital gains, or living in a non-dom program where you have very nominal tax, or a lump sum program where you pay one low amount of tax every year. There's so many different ways you can do it. To me, statelessness reduces the options to live a low-tax life because your likelihood of being stuck in one place or one region increases should you have these kind of everyday life situations. In theory, can it work, and can you be stateless, and can you go to different places? Yes, but I think statelessness is not designed for someone who wants to be constantly traveling around the world, because think about it. Let's say that you have homes Colombia and Ukraine and Thailand. No nonstop flights that I'm aware of between Colombia and Ukraine, so now you've got to add the hassle of going through a third country. You've got to deal with the airline with that third country, whether it's Turkish, whether it's Lufthansa, whatever. You know, same thing with going from Ukraine to Thailand, for example. Maybe there's some nonstop flights there, but unless you're going to charter a private jet, things are going to become more difficult. So there's so many little everyday things to think about, and it is often not even government bureaucracy that gets in the way, but airline bureaucracy or some other kind of travel, corporate bureaucracy that at times is even worse than government bureaucracy. And so I don't think that the statelessness solves the problem. I think that having a second passport or multiple second passports from a country that allows you to live a tax-friendly lifestyle, that doesn't want to bother you, and then using that passport to travel, using that passport to purchase real estate and move around the world makes a lot more sense than being stateless. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.